And here's an easy to follow maths video, and the topic is multiplying three brackets. So imagine we've got two brackets. You might think it's strange that we're multiplying out three, but we've only got two. It's because this first bracket has got three terms in it, which is the form you're going to have when you are multiplying out three brackets. So I'd set this out in the multiplication grid. X squared plus 3x subtract 5 along the top, that's just your first bracket there. And down the side, your second bracket, x plus 2. Now remember, this is a multiplication grid, so we're going to be multiplying the terms together. So that's x times x squared, that makes x cubed. Into the next cell, we're going to be multiplying x by positive 3x, so that's plus 3x squared. And on the top row, finally, we've got x times minus 5, so that makes minus 5x. Onto the second row, we're now multiplying 2 by x squared, and that gives us 2x squared. We're multiplying the 2 by the 3x, that gives us plus 6x. And finally, we're multiplying the 2 by the negative 5, that gives us negative 10, or subtract 10. Now we put all the terms together in our grid that's shaded yellow. We've got 6 terms there. The first term is x cubed, that's just on its own. Now we put the x squared terms together, and we're just adding these together because we're saying we've got adding 3x squared and we're adding 2x squared, so that's the same as adding 5x squared. The x term, we're adding 6x, but we're subtracting 5x, so that's the same as adding 1x. And then finally, on its own, we're subtracting 10. And that will be our final answer from multiplying out those two brackets. Here's a second example. Once again, as a multiplication grid, take the first bracket and put it on the top row. Then 2x plus 5 would go down the side. And remember, it's a multiplication grid, so 2x times x squared, 2x cubed. 2x times 2x, that makes 4x squared. And then 2x times subtract 3, so we're subtracting 6x. Onto the bottom row, remember we're multiplying, so it's 5 times x squared, that's 5x squared. 5 times 2x is 10x. And then finally, in the last cell, we've got a positive times a negative, that's minus 15. Now we're putting the terms together, so on its own, just 2x cubed. The x squared terms can go together. We're adding 5 and we're adding 4, so we're adding 9. The x term, we're adding 10 but subtracting 6. That's the same as adding 4. And finally, the constant on its own is subtract 15. Now when we actually get an example where we do have three brackets, we multiply out the first two brackets. So x plus 2 across the top, x subtract 3 down the side. Again, it's a multiplication grid, remember, x times x, x squared. X times 2 plus 2x along the bottom row, minus 3 times x, minus 3x. And finally, minus 3 times plus 2, that's minus 6. So we've got an x squared. The x term is we're adding 2x, but we're subtracting 3x. That's the same as subtracting x. And finally, we've got subtract 6 on its own. So now, x squared subtract x subtract 6 is just the multiplication of these first two brackets. So we've now got to take this 3-term expression and multiply it by x plus 5. So like the first two examples, the first bracket with the 3 terms in we'll put along the top, x plus 5 we'll put down the side, and we begin our multiplication grid. X times x squared is x cubed, minus x times x is minus x squared, And then minus 6 times x is minus 6x. Along the bottom row, x squared times plus 5 is plus 5x squared. Minus x times plus 5 is minus 5x. And finally, plus 5 times minus 6, and that's minus 30. So putting our terms together on its own, we've got x cubed. For our x squared term, we're adding 5x squared and subtracting x squared, so that's plus 4x squared. And then our x term, we're subtracting 5x and subtracting 6x, so altogether we're subtracting 11x. And finally, the constant, which is a number on its own, is subtract 30. And that's our final answer. So just one more example. Multiply out the first two brackets. So that was x plus 1 multiplied by x subtract 2. I hope this is a little bit familiar to you now. X times x, x squared. X times 1 plus x. And on the bottom row, minus 2 times x, minus 2x. And then minus 2 times plus 1 is minus 2. So altogether, x squared. Now we're subtracting 2x and we're adding x, so altogether that's the same as subtracting 1x. And the constant, the number on the end, is subtract 2. So remember that answer that we've just had, that is the result of multiplying x plus 1 by x subtract 2. We've still got to multiply this answer now by 2x plus 3, which is our third bracket. We put the three terms along the top, we put the second bracket down the side, and we begin our multiplication. 2x times x squared is 2x cubed. 2x times minus x is minus 2x squared. And finally, minus 2 times 2x is minus 4x. Along the bottom row, 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times minus x is minus 3x. And finally, a positive 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. Putting all the 6 terms together, 2x cubed is on its own. The x squared term, we're adding 3x squared, but we're also subtracting 2x squared. That's the same as adding 1x squared. For our x term, we're subtracting 3x and subtracting 4x, so we're subtracting 7x. And finally, the constant, the number on its own, is subtract 6. And that's how we multiply 3 brackets.
And if there's anything about the video you haven't understood, just watch it back. And if you have, that's great, because that's the job done.